do you think this charade that he is living in is going to hold up so that the media can pretend everything's fine?
Well,
I mean, the media isn't showing the bread lines. They occasionally show, look how many cars are in the mall parking lot getting a box of food in some town. But very rarely. I mean, I'm watching New York 1. You're from New York. Right. New York's like, everything's good. Look, these people are helping each other. You can't go to the beach, but maybe you can, but you can't. Anyway, we're still waiting. You know, it's just kind of, it's not showing the lines of people waiting for food.
No, and that's because we have allowed as a society the overwhelming bulk of the mass media to be owned and operated by the biggest corporations in the country, and they share the same perspective that everybody else does. They either are Fox News, so they're cheerleaders for Trump, or they're big businesses, and while they have criticisms of Trump, they want the system to work. They are part of the system. They need the system. You know, capitalists are learning a painful lesson for themselves these days, that they're nothing unless they have workers. The machines they own don't make anything. The factories they own don't produce anything. The raw materials they've stockpiled just sit there gathering rust and dust. The one thing they can't do without, and the only thing that produces their profits, is workers working. And that's why they want the quote-unquote country open. And so they're going to support Mr. Trump in quote-unquote opening the economy. I hate to be a downer, but I've got to say something which I
need a downer. I mean, New York 1 is like, it's fine once we open back up. Bang! It's going to just pop back to normal.
It is an extraordinary society that says to millions of its working class people, here's your choice. You either go back into an unsafe environment where you risk not only getting sick or dying yourself, but taking that virus infection home to the people nearest and dearest to you, your children, your elderly, your spouses, or you can go to work. Or you can refuse to go to work. That's your choice. You either go into an unsafe place, because remember, we haven't even tested 96% of our people. So you go into an unsafe place, or you are fired, because your employer can now fire you if you don't come back with a quote-unquote opened economy. You can then lose your job. You can then not have a job to go back to. And now with Mr. Trump, there's the threat that they will take away your unemployment insurance because you have refused to go back to work. In other words, we are forcing people. This is called in other countries forced labor, or maybe even slave labor. What kind of a society gives you that choice? We will either crush you into mind-numbing poverty where you won't even get an unemployment and compensation check, or you go to work and risk the lives of yourself and your family. This is a society that has broken down. It doesn't even honor the most basic notion of the respect of human life. It used to be popular to suggest that Americans value family or Americans value human life. Other societies don't. Well, we are the worst example of the degradation of respect for family life. And my fear is, and here's where I'm going to be harsh, employers know that when you have 30 million people unemployed, using up their savings, becoming a burden on their family if they beg for money from one another and all the rest, they know those people are desperate. So if a few of them come back and they get sick and they die, there's lots of other people ready to take the job. And so for them, it's a few lost workers easily replaced. For the rest of us, it's playing Russian roulette with our lives. It is a sign of a system that has come to the end, because that's when forced labor is necessary. I don't mean to be the downer, but not to see this is to be as blind as you just described the TV station that pretends everything is hunky-dory except you can't go to the beach yet.
How can we message in a short, succinct way. You know, people I think there's two messages out there. Oh, this is terrible. We're all going to die. Sit on your pile of money, whatever you got. And then there are people who are saying everything's fine the minute we open the doors. Just like Trump said, you're going to see this unleashment of funds and everything's going to be fine. Is there a way that's kind of succinct that we could message the reason that opening the economy again is not just going to have it bounce back to normal? Because that seems like, you know, if you're you're not super into economics, just like, yeah, okay, once they open the doors, once this passes, everything will be fine. Why will it not be fine?
I think
it's not fine right now, but why will it not be fine as we open up?
Because in the past, which is the only guide we have as to what might happen, depressions on this scale have lasted a long time. The last one is 1930s. Let me remind everyone, the economy crashed in October of 1929, and the official ending date of the Great Depression was 1941. So let's be clear, a major depression lasts a long time. This one is arguably worse because we have an economic crash, and on top of it, a disease that is genuinely terrifying and puts us all at risk. Therefore, the presumption is it will last longer and not be shorter than the other one. The second worst crash was in 2008. We all remember it. And it took 8 to 10 years to get the economy back to where it was when it crashed in the last 4 months of 2008. So the burden isn't on those of us who say we're just early into this horror. The burden is on those who would imagine that this is going to be quickly overcome. Depressions of this scale have never been quickly overcome. They didn't before. And let me threaten your consciousness, if I can, or provoke it with another. When the Great Depression looked like it was maybe over, around 1936-37, which it was already then 7 years old, it was misunderstood. They were wrong, the people who thought it was over, and it plunged down again. And the unemployment started going up again. And the only thing that got us out of that unemployment after 11 years of it was a war. And
that's what someone in our stream chat just said. A war. Do we want that? Yep.
Yeah. A war puts people back to work. Here's what happened in 1941. We got out of the depression of all the unemployment. You know why? We took half the unemployed people and put them in a uniform. And we took the other half of the unemployed people to make the uniforms and the guns for the uniformed people to use. The war overcame unemployment, which stands as another stark criticism of capitalism. It presents you with this choice: protracted unemployed, depressed economy, or war. And again, what kind of a system does that to you tells you a lot about whether or not you ought to be a loyalist of this kind of system, or say to yourself, as I do, I know we can do better than capitalism.